Hey guys, welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to show you how I do one of my paintings from start to finish. So if you're interested in that, then keep watching. So the piece I'm going to show you all how I did today is this sunflower piece. It's 12 by 12 inches on stretched canvas, so if you want to follow along, it doesn't really matter exactly what canvas size you get, but if you want to do exactly what I did, that's the size canvas that I used.
So let's get started. First things first is cut the plastic wrap off of the canvas, obviously, and then we're going to lay it down on some paper towel just to minimize our mess, and also we're going to use this to clean our brush in between colors later on. Next, you're going to take a pencil, it doesn't matter which one, and we're going to make a mark right at center. So for me, that center is at 6 inches horizontally, 6 inches vertically. I'm then wanting the middle of my center sunflower to be slightly above center, so I'm drawing that above center, and then I'm sketching out my petals, stems, leaves, other sunflowers that are going to be around the edges. They don't have to be perfect right now because we're going to go over with the background later. They just have to be a rough sketch so we know generally where we're going to put our background and where we're going to start drawing our petals and everything later on. Next, we're going to start with the background. So right now we're kind of going for an out of focus look. Kind of like a photograph, the background's out of focus, but the sunflowers towards us are in focus. So we're going to make a dark green color with half blue, half yellow, and we're going to spritz it with some water and mix it around, and we're going to take that and kind of lump it onto the canvas in chunks. We're not going to mix it together yet, we're just going to kind of put it in chunks right now so that we can get that out of focus look later. We're going to make 3 different greens in the end, this dark green, a slightly lighter green, and another lighter green. So right now I'm mixing the slightly lighter green, and I'm going to take this and lump it onto the canvas just the same. And I'm also going to make sure that I'm going over the edges of my canvas. So with this slightly lighter green, I'm covering the edges of my canvas just because when you hang it up, it kind of looks messy if you don't cover the edges with your background color. So make sure you always paint the edges of your canvas with the background color. After I do this, I'm going to mix a pale yellow color, and we're going to use this for any background sunflowers that may be out of focus further back in our painting. And so same with the green, we're just going to kind of lump this in chunks. I'm then taking the leftover yellow and making our lightest green and lumping that in chunks just like I did with the other colors. Next, I'm going to take a sponge, and it doesn't matter what kind of sponge. This is the exact same sponge I use for my makeup. Well, not the exact same, but the same brand, same sponge. And so I'm cutting off the previous paint that's on it, so we have a blank slate. And I'm just using tapping motions all over the canvas, just to make sure that every white part of the canvas is covered and that that paint is really in the canvas. But we're going to make tapping motions, not rubbing or circular or anything like that, because that's going to mix the colors together and make the background all one color when we really want the different values to shine through. You're also going to end up covering part of your sketch, which is totally fine. We're going to go back over it later. It was just a preliminary blocking of where we're going to put the colors later on. So it doesn't matter that we've covered it up, don't worry. You're going to end up tapping over each part of the canvas about 3 times, so 3 layers of tapping just to make sure the paint is totally covering the canvas. Next, we're going to do the centers of the sunflowers. So I'm mixing brown with an orange color, so about 3 parts brown, 2 parts yellow, 1 part orange, or 1 part red to make a warm brown color, and we're using this for the background of our sunflowers. I'm lumping it kind of chunkily on the center of the sunflower and just tapping it again so that the paint stays lumpy so that we get that textured center of sunflower effect. Next, I'm going to make an orange color that we're going to use for the background layer of the sunflower petals. I'm using 1 part yellow, 1 part red to make these orange petals. And I'm doing the petals on all of our sunflowers. This is a close-up of exactly how I'm making that petal shape if you need more help. And I'm going over each petal with that orange color twice. So each petal has 2 layers of orange, just because that green background is making where the orange hits it a bit muddy. And we want to make sure that's covered up and all the orange is shining through the green background. Next, we're going to work on that butterfly that we're putting in the center of the middle sunflower. So I have scraped off some of that brown paint that I used where the butterfly is going to go, just because we made it really lumpy, which is good, but if it dries lumpy under the butterfly, then we'll have a lumpy butterfly. So I scraped off some of that chunky brown paint under the butterfly and marked out where I want it with pale yellow paint. I'm using the same pale yellow color to make more petals in between our orange petals. It's not going to be quite this contrasty later. We're going to keep adding yellow. So I'm adding a medium yellow over where I put that pale yellow, and I'm also going to add that medium yellow over the orange, just so that we get the different value of petals. The colors are going to mix together and look really nice and make that really nice contrast in the petals. So you want to make sure that your colors are mixing together, that the orange is shining through the yellow you put on top, and all of that. So it's good that you're going to get orange streaks and lighter yellow streaks, and each petal is going to be slightly different colored. We want that. Then we're taking the last of that pale yellow and filling in our butterfly, just to make sure that later on we have a nice blank slate to paint on. We're taking that pale yellow color, and here I've decided that I want my petals to be a bit longer and a bit lighter. The picture that I was using to look at the sunflower for this had a really nice pale yellow sunflower, and so I decided that I wanted to go a bit more for that, and so here I am making that pale yellow and making my petals longer and a bit lighter. Again, that pale yellow is still mixing with the background colors. I'm now taking the dark green color that we used in the background, and I'm adding in the stems and the leaves, kind of vaguely where I had sketched them before, but you can't really see your sketch, so I'm kind of just guessing and adding a few extras. I've then noticed that there's a little bit of white left over in the background, so I'm making a lime green color and dabbing it in to cover up some of those white spots that are left over. I'm going to take that same lime green color and use it to add some value to the leaves. So I'm doing a second layer for some of the leaves, and then for all of the leaves, I'm using that lime green color to add in some value, making a line at the bottom of those leaves, the bottom half of the leaves, and along the center, and again to make the veins in the leaves. This is going to add a lot of dimension and tone to the leaf, which makes it look a lot more realistic. After I've done that, I'm taking an orange color and I'm going over the butterfly, because in the end it's going to be an orange butterfly. And so I'm coating the outside of the wings with that orange color, and we're going to go back over this in a second. I'm then taking that dark brown and fixing the background where I had scraped it away for the butterfly, making sure that the background is fully covered in brown, and also I'm using that dabbing motion to make sure that paint is thick and textured like the sunflower would be. And I'm doing this on all of the sunflowers. Again, it doesn't matter exactly where you put sunflowers on your painting, this is just where I put them. I'm next making an orange color, a really bright orange, and going over that butterfly again so the background is quite bright. I'm taking a pale yellow and I'm going over some of the leaves again to add more dimension. I'm then taking some orange and I'm using it to add more dimension to the petals, and so I'm just stroking it in there to add some of the dimension at the beginning of the petals so that we get that 3D effect. And I'm using my absolute smallest brush to do this. I'm then mixing some brown and white in with that orange to get a really light brown, and I'm using it to add more dimension to the middle of the sunflowers. And so I'm dabbing it all over the center of the sunflowers, but I'm making sure that that dark brown seeps through, because that will be the shadowy part on the center of the sunflowers. So we want the dark brown to show through our new light brown color. Again, I'm doing this on all of the sunflowers' background. Next, I'm going to mix a dark green color, similar to the one in the background, and I'm going over the stems to make a bit of that shadowy area, and I'm also going over the leaves and making the edges a bit squigglier and more natural looking, just so that they're not straight lines, because in nature, leaves are not straight lines. I'm then making a really lime green color and going over those parts where I added value before. I'm making sure not to cover up the previous layers of green. We want all the layers of green to show through. Next, I'm taking my brown color and I'm drawing a line down the center of the butterfly, and then I'm using that same brown color and a small brush to make oval shapes for our butterfly body. I'm going to take that same brown color and use it to outline the butterfly and draw the lines and veins in the butterfly's wings. I'm also using it to make the pattern on its wings, so I'm kind of chunking that paint on there and drawing it up into where I've drawn those lines, and also making polka dots on the body of the butterfly. I've taken that same brown color and I'm using it to add more dimension to the center of the flower, of the sunflower. There are circular patterns in the middle of the sunflower if you've ever seen one, and so we're going to take that dark brown and add back in some of these patterns. So I'm making a dark brown center to that sunflower, and I'm also making a dark brown kind of ring. So you're going to have two elements that you've just added in that are dark brown. Next, I'm mixing in a white color that we're going to use to add more detail to the center of the butterfly. I'm putting a lot of water in this, and I'm using my smallest brush, and we're just going to dot that white straight on there. By putting a lot of water, it makes it much easier to dot on there and make really small details, which makes it look a lot nicer. I'm also dotting down the center of the butterfly on its body as well. Then I'm going to take some of the lime green we used earlier and mix it with that white to make a really milky green, and I'm using this for the final details on the leaves, so the final bits of value that we're adding to the leaves.
And that's it, we're all done. That's how I made this painting. I hope you all enjoyed that and found it informative on my process.
If you're interested in more things like this, then make sure to check out my Instagram, which I'll link below. I also sell my artwork on Etsy at Marguerite Knowles Art, same as my Instagram, same as this channel. I will also link my website down below. You can shop my stuff through my website as well. And if you want to support me, I'll link my Patreon down below.
Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.